Our reading for this Trinity Sunday comes from the 16th chapter of John. Jesus has washed his disciples' feet, broken bread with them. Judas has gone out to do his dastardly deed, and now Jesus takes some time to give them some final instructions and assurances before their time together comes to an end. And Jesus says to them, "I still have many things to say to you, but you cannot bear them now. When the Spirit of truth comes, she will guide you into all the truth, for she will not speak on her own, but will speak whatever she hears, and she will declare to you the things that are to come. She will glorify me because she will take what is mine and declare it to you. All that Abba God has is mine. For this reason I said, the Spirit will take what is mine and declare it to you." Word of God, word of life. Thanks be to God. At our preacher's text study this last week, we talked about how impossible it is to explain the doctrine of the Trinity, the triune God. 3 in 1 and 1 in 3. And we talked about how the doctrine of Trinity is difficult because it's been an obstacle to interfaith dialogue as we try to explain to our brothers and sisters and siblings that we do in fact worship only one God. The Trinity is a theological proposition. I kind of like saying that. It makes me feel like a seminary professor. The Trinity is the doctrine of the Trinity, I should say, is a theological proposition to help us understand our experience of God. God expressed as Father, Son, and Spirit, or Creator, Redeemer, Sanctifier, one God in three relationships. Over the years, multiple images have been used to try to describe the Trinity, often in children's sermons when hapless preachers try to explain the most abstract of ideas to those who developmentally are still in concrete thinking. And adults listen in, hoping against hope that they might pick up something helpful in their own understanding of the Trinity. One model I heard this week was the idea of a balloon on a string. The balloon is the Creator. The air within the balloon is the Spirit, and the string is Jesus bringing the whole assembly down to earth. Now, this model falls quickly apart because air is still air apart from the balloon. It is fully and completely air, and string is still fully and completely string apart from the air, and so on, wherein God, Creator, Redeemer, Sustainer, is one being, inextricably interwoven, inseparable from each other, each fully and completely God. So we let the balloon go. Another, perhaps better image that's been used to describe the Trinity is an apple. So you cut an apple in half, and you look inside, and what do you see? You see skin, you see the meat of the apple, and you can see the seeds. Skin, meat, and seeds, each fully apple. You take the seed out of the apple, separate it from the meat and the skin, and it is still apple, and the seed contains within itself complete appleness. And the skin peeled off looks like and tastes like complete appleness, and so on. And we could go on with images and metaphors and ideas for expressing the inexpressible nature of a triune God. The doctrine of the Trinity is holy and fascinating and helpful and confounding. And the risk of such doctrines is that because they are the human interpretation of what we have experienced, they can be used to limit God and to exclude the holy imagination of others. So if we can agree that God exceeds our capacity to explain, let's try coming at this from another way. We begin by going all the way back to the first chapter of Genesis. Now, I don't want you to get nervous thinking that we're going to do a full biblical survey and argument for the doctrine of the Trinity. We're just going quick back to Genesis, and that's it, so you can relax. In the first chapter of Genesis, the Creator has separated light from darkness and the water from above from the water below, and has made bugs and creeping things and plants bearing seeds. And then God says, "Let us make humankind in our image, according to our likeness." Let us make humankind in our image, according to our likeness. Do you hear the pronouns? Genesis is ancient and holy, written by a people that had not yet discovered flight or the microwave or pride fests or golden doodles. This is a community trying to articulate what they have experienced that is beyond explanation. How do we explain where we come from? How do we explain the color purple or the manatee? Who made my hands to do the remarkable things that they can do? And some among them will have holy revelations inspired by Ruach, the spirit that blew across the dark void in the beginning and will inflame the church in centuries to come. And together, this community will begin to discern that it's God speaking to them, and they will capture what they hear to pass on to others. There was no doctrine of the Trinity when these words were scratched onto the papyrus. There was only an understanding of something holy and other and generative. And in that record is this strange but confident statement that God is an us. A friend of mine said this week, if God is love, then God must be they. Love is something shared, so God can only be love if God is relationship. So if God is an us, the Trinity begins to make a little bit of sense, and so we might be content thinking that we have explained God satisfactorily, and then we risk ignoring the risks that come with tidy doctrinal understandings of God. Another friend of mine has a child who just turned 13. Miles has a quick mind and a compassionate heart, and Miles has asked family and friends to use the pronouns they and them to describe them. Because Miles does not believe that he or she is an authentic or complete description of Miles. Miles has a different and more expansive sense of who they are. And we hear such things from our young people and we struggle. And we roll our eyes and we moan about how hard it is to use they, them pronouns to describe one small person because they and them means plural in the limits of our language. But other languages have neutral, singular pronouns. Other cultures have gender options that are not male or female, but something in between or both or entirely other. And some species created by our amazing God have been known to switch genders when necessary. And we struggle to embrace these ideas, and we resist the ways in which our culture is beginning to recognize the rainbow array of gender expression in the human being that is created in the likeness of an us, God. We struggle because we can quote the part of Genesis that says, male and female, he created them. And we're surprised to read the preceding words where God says, let us make humankind in our image according to our likeness. Limiting God and limiting God's creative imagination is a trap that we fall into whenever we love the explanation more than we love the object of the explanation. It's a trap that we fall into when we decide that our understanding and comfort is more important than someone else's lived truth. It's a trap that we fall into when we think that we have explained God or people, written it down succinctly, and stamped it understood. Or worse, done. At the Last Supper, when Jesus was giving these farewell instructions and assurances to the disciples, they were not debating abstract theological propositions. They had actually felt Jesus' carpenter hands dripping warm water over their aching, dusty feet. They had broken and tasted and fed one another on coarse bread. They could smell the sun-parched skin and the wine on each other's breath. They could feel the wood of the table under their hands as Jesus' own voice filled their ears. Their time in the presence of God was a lived truth, not a doctrinal proposition. Jesus told them that the Spirit would come. The word for spirit in biblical Hebrew is ruach, a word that is both masculine and feminine. In New Testament Greek, the word is pneuma, which is an ungendered or gender-neutral word. According to Jesus, this ungendered spirit would carry God's truth from now on. The body was going from the world, but the spirit would continue with them, and she or he or they would reveal in due time the things that the disciples couldn't bear to hear just now. You see, when Jesus died, the mouth of God did not close. When the church fathers determined which writings would make up the Bible that you see in the pew back in front of you, the mouth of God did not close. God continues to speak. God continues to blow as Spirit through our lives and come to us as lived truth in bread and wine and in singing, in a casserole or a prayer shawl, in palm pressed to palm, so that we can experience a God who slips the bonds of any tidy doctrine we can conceive. Please don't misunderstand. The image of the Trinity is useful and good. It helps us understand the ways in which our tradition has experienced the living presence of God, Creator, indweller, empowering, calling Spirit. And such explanations serve as signposts for us, and they form faith. Many years ago, when Ted and I were new parents, we discovered a parenting author, who frankly saved our bacon, who said that children need a mooring place to anchor and find harbor. And that is the role of the parents, who then also set and enforce the boundaries beyond which children are not allowed to go behaviorally or physically. And the author said that kids will spend all of their energy seeking and testing boundaries until they are clear. And once they learn to trust reliable boundaries and to trust the boundary setters, they turn their energy instead to creativity and play and self-expression and joy and growth. Safe within the harbor shaped by their parents or guardians, children thrive and grow. And each family creates its own unique harbor. And our family harbor is within the dance of the Trinity, within the dance of love. And within the dance of love is where we thrive. With God as our anchor, we needn't spend so much energy seeking definitions and enforcing limits on God or wrapping God up in tidy doctrines to which we demand intellectual assent. Yes, we work together as a people to establish boundaries that protect the well-being of each person in a given community, but the boundaries that keep us safe are not the same thing as boundaries that keep us comfortable. Perhaps we can stop expending so much energy struggling to stay comfortable and let people discover who God made them to be and who God called them to love. And think about what might happen if instead of arguing about what people call themselves, we simply take their hand and invite them into the dance of love, where their unique God-given beauty can simply grow. Oh, for each of us to live with each, embraced by the great them who created us, the God who said, "Let us make humankind in our image according to our likeness." As you look in the eyes of another this morning, and I hope you will, look each other in the eye and see there the God creature dancing with God as only they know how, and give thanks that they look back and see you the same way. Amen.